Not too long ago on my main channel, as well as the podcast channel, I had the pleasure of interviewing one of my favorites in Honoree Corder. She's a prolific nonfiction author who has worked with a veritable who's who of many successful authors within the traditional publishing as well as the self-publishing industry here. And I was just elated to have the opportunity to talk to her on her book launch party. But prior to that, about a month before it, I'd reached out to her and we sat down to talk about book marketing and some of her very unorthodox and unique ways of promoting books. And it's just so refreshing to hear her perspective. And I just love everything about Honoree and some of the things that she, distills and puts together for indie authors to market and promote and, of course, sell more books. So I wanted to sit down with her, have a chat with her, talk with her about her book marketing methods, even talking about her email marketing strategy and things like that. So you're actually going to get a nice little crash course in selling more books from somebody who is super prolific and super respected in the space of publishing. So without any further ado, let's get into the interview with Honoree Corder. Okay, Honoree, we just got to come in hot because I've already laid a little bit of the groundwork just before our little interview about who you are and how important you are inside the indie author community, book marketing. You're absolutely fantabulous at this. I had to pull in a complete and total fake word for this one because every day in my email inbox, you have something about book marketing in some capacity. How do you manage so many emails in such a frequent pace?
Well, I don't want to dissuade you from the fantabulous word, but I do have to say that I have been creating the content for a really long time and repurposing it. So I'll go granular and then go broad for just a second. So the daily emails were written one day at a time intentionally based on the bigger picture of walking my audience through crafting, writing, publishing, launching, and marketing a book. So I set out to write a sequence that would go all the way through someone's journey of publishing a book, just one little bite at a time. Because if I say, guess what, Dale, you're going to write a book, you're going to craft it, you're going to write it, you're going to publish it, you're going to launch it, you're going to market it, you're going to monetize it, you would be like, unsubscribe.
Right. It's a lot.
But if I come at you every single day with here's something you can use right now, if it's applicable, or it's something that I'm going to plant a seed for later, so that the next time you see it, when the content shows up, give or take in about a year, because I figured out that the life cycle of a book is about a year, right? So someone writing a book, it's about a year, give or take. Some people do it very fast in a weekend, don't do that. Some people take 5 years, also not recommended. That's very painful. But average, the life cycle of someone writing a book is about a year. So if I just repeat the content over about a year, I think I'm up to maybe 13 and a half months now, because every year I add in a little bit more content, right? So every year I'll have a book release and I'll do 5 days about a new book and I'll stick that in there. And then I'll say, gosh, you know what? There are 5 other days worth of content I can sneak in, and I can make it just a little bit longer so that those people who are following me go, this is new, fresh content. I've never seen this before, because it wasn't so recent that it rang a bell, or it's too soon. Does that make sense? Like, I don't feel like I could repeat the content after 5 or 6 months. I feel like it has to be a year. Now it's about 13 and a half months. And I'm just going to keep adding to it as I keep writing and releasing books and learning more, because I'm a coach teaching people how to do it, coaching people through the process, but I'm also a player. I'm out there on the field still doing it.
Yes, one of the things I really love about you is you have such an unconventional, unorthodox way of book marketing. Not that all of it's unconventional, unorthodox. One of my favorite ones, and I even shared this with you via email, I thought it was a trip when I'd read, and I can't remember which one of the books, it might have been one of the books you wrote with Brian Meeks. Love the guy, by the way. Big shout out to Brian.
Yeah.
That you would take your book and you would put it into a brick and mortar store on the shelf. And the genius part of it, I don't want to even spoil this. Share a little bit, if you would like to, about that whole process and the thought behind that.
Yeah, when I was young and and I would in my younger days, I was just really trying to figure out how I could get my book into the places where people who were looking for them would find them. And it occurred to me that I was always going to the bookstore that was I used to live basically at a mall. I lived in an apartment community right at a mall. There was a Barnes & Noble, and of course I'm a book person, so I was at the bookstore writing books, buying books, all the things. And one day I just thought, you know what, I'm going to just put my book on the bookshelf and then see what happens. And there's, my contact information in there. And then they called me a couple of days later and they were like, hey, so we have this book of yours and we have somebody who wants to buy it. What do we do? And I was like, well, for God's sake, sell it to them. Sell it to them. And this is proof that people want my book. So how about we play Let's Make a Deal? And I bring you some books on consignment, which is really not their way. And they were very Barnes & Noble-y, right? Which at the time it meant, you're not cool enough to be on our bookshelves, even though someone just bought your book. Just saying. And now we have distribution through Ingram, right? So now we have solved that problem. As indies, now we're cool. We can be anywhere that the traditional kids are. But that I was just trying to think about, and this is my goal in life, is for everyone to become an author that is a best earning author. That means that they are selling books, they are writing books, and they are selling books that fulfill the vision that they have for their book. And they're thinking outside the box. In other words, they're thinking. They're not just doing what someone says. Oh, I listened to a podcast. Honoree said to go put my books in the brick and mortar. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying take a minute and think about where your readers are hanging out and then go put your books there. And I'm not saying by hook or by crook, right? Because I didn't anything. I didn't take anything, but I just got really creative. Like if your book is for business travelers, then find business travelers and give them a copy of your book and then say, hey, stick this kid in the seat back pocket in front of you and just get off the airplane without it.
Oh my gosh, you just did 2 for 1 right here. You're not even just saying like, hey, don't just do bookstores. Think outside the box, even more beyond bookstores.
Yes. Leave it in hotels. Leave it in bookstores. I
might have actually left a couple of my books on an airplane, just to be honest with you, by accident, but I didn't even think it was a good marketing technique.
I went to the dentist today and I was very sad because they have a table and there's nothing on the table in the reception area. And I had a book in my purse ready to leave. I was ready to leave it there, but it would have been so obvious because it would have been this clean table with the 4 chairs around it. And then this obnoxious customer comes in and leaves her book on the table. Ma'am, you forgot your book. Oh, okay, sorry, thanks. Right.
that you conveniently have a picture of yourself on the very back. It seems like a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode.
Yes, I conveniently have a picture of oh, no, that's not mine. That's not me.
No.
I don't know what you mean. I didn't leave that there.
This is one of the things I really thoroughly enjoy about you is the fact that you think about these different methods. What would you think would be like a few other unconventional methods? Because we all hear the same, thing over and over. You got to market and promote your book if you want to really gain any kind of traction or sales. So what are some other ones that other people don't normally discuss?
Well, so I want to talk about how to think about it. So I wrote in my book, You Must Market My Book, which if you don't have a copy, I'll send you one. So send me your address when we're done. But I talk about the 4 things to think about before you think about book marketing. So what type of an author are you? Are you an introvert, an extrovert, or an ambivert? Because if I'm an introvert, which most people go, that's not a real thing. And I'm like, it's a real thing. I recharge at home in my llama pajamas on my couch. That's a real thing. I love people, but I also recharge at home. So I'm not the person that is going to throw a bunch of books in a box and in my purse and go to networking event after networking event after networking event. I would rather, lay bricks. Right? Like, I'm not sure there are so many things I would rather do than that. That's just not what fits with my personality. Think about the type of personality you are as an author. That's the first thing. The second thing is, what is the job of the book? Now, in nonfiction, it's prescriptive, transformational, informational, something like that. Where are your readers hanging out? How do you get in front of your readers? And if you don't have a line of sight to a lot of readers, well, then who the heck does? Right? So is it at a conference? Is it through a podcaster? Is it through someone running a summit? where's your audience hanging out and who has influence over them based on the job of the book. Now, fiction, it's to entertain. So where are your fiction fans hanging out? Go find your fiction fans, right? So it's the personality of the author, the job of the book, the time you have available, which is a big one. Do you have 15 minutes a day? Do you have 15 minutes a week? Do you have 15 minutes every hour? I don't know, right? That informs and influences how much time you can take to market your book. Are you going to do a massive social media campaign, record all the videos, spend hours on TikTok? I'm not. I don't have that kind of time, but some people do. Some people, that's totally their jam, right? And then how much money do you have? Do you have money to put into book marketing, advertising, Amazon ads, Facebook ads, blah, 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 right? You can, believe me, you can light money on fire because you need amusement all day long with advertising, right? So those are the 4 things that you think about. And when you think about those things, then you can play. So I don't really talk about this very much, but it occurred to me that one of the reasons I love books and book marketing is because for me, it's all play. It's all play all the time. I don't feel like it's working. When I sit down with a prospective author, someone who wants to talk to me about their book, and they're like, do you have any ideas? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And now comes the whiteboard. It's like an Amway meeting, right? Drawing circles.
You got to talk to my upline.
That's right. Like income streams and ways that they can repurpose the content and ways that they can market their book that they hadn't thought about and what the book is going to do for their business. Again, what's the job of the book and where can they find their readers, i.e. potential clients in the nonfiction space. If you think about book marketing as a way to play, as a way to get your book out into the world and as a challenge, then you go back to the days when you were 7. And when someone would talk to you when you were 7, they'd be like, Dale, what do you want to do when you grow up? It's like, oh, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be an astronaut and you can be an astronaut. We'll both go to the moon. It'll be super fun. We'll have a spacesuit. We'll have one in blue and one in red. And so you didn't sit there and think, oh my gosh, I have to make all this money from it. It's this big, heavy thing. I might do it wrong. It might be crazy. It might not work. And so if you just kind of go to a bookstore and put your book on the shelf and see what happens, you're not going to die. You're not going to go to jail. And you could discover the next thing that's really fun and that works.
It's a complete shift in the mindset then, which I think a lot of authors struggle with is because I think you've heard this many times. I want to promote and I want to sell my book, but I don't want to be too salesy. So you've kind of framed it in a great way with this mindset. What could you do to help that person out who is stuck in that they can't quite get themselves transitioned from that scarcity mindset over to that more childlike mindset?
Yeah. So have you ever read a book that changed your life?
Oh, absolutely. Has it everybody?
Yes. So at some point, that book is your book for someone else. And if you don't talk about it, right, you got to talk about it and you got to be about it. And you just have to talk to people. And I always, when someone reads one of my books, I'm always like, thank you so much because you just gave me your most valuable resource, which is your time. You can get more money, but you cannot get more time. It is an honor. And when I offer my book to someone, I'll say, do you really want it? Are you going to read it? Someday. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. Tomorrow is fine. Tomorrow plus your 5-star review would be great. But it's saying no to everything else in order to say yes to reading a book. So I don't want someone to get the book if they don't really want it. But there is someone who wants to read your space opera and they cannot wait. They just don't know about it yet. There is someone who wants to read your book on becoming a better kitten leg warmer knitter and they just don't know that it exists. And so you have to put the book in their hands. So that's not sales. That's solving a problem that someone has. Either they need to be entertained and they're looking for it, right? What's on TV? What's new that we can watch? What's a new book that I can read? Have you ever seen those posts on Facebook? I'm looking for my new book to read. I'm going on vacation. Oh, what do you like to read? Oh, I'm looking for a book on X. Does anybody have any suggestions? Your job is just to put yourself at the intersection of, I want to read a book about, and your book. In the most fun, playful, fantastic way possible. And not everybody's going to like your book, but a lot of people would love your book if they just knew about it. So take sales out of the equation. Stop making it icky. Mm-hmm. And realize that everything that you own was sold to you and no one was harmed in the sale of your couch or your car or your dog treats, right? Everybody's still fine. But if you didn't know about it, you wouldn't have bought it. And there are so many things that when I see something, I go, oh my gosh, I need that in my life. I live in the country now. We have mosquitoes. So when someone told me about those mosquito repellent bracelets, I now have enough for a garden party. I'm allergic to mosquitoes, but I didn't know about them. And as soon as I knew, as soon as someone told me, I bought them. Amazon, next day delivery, right? So it's just put the sales about it out of it. It's hard and it's frustrating and it's miserable and nobody makes any money anyway. It really is a huge mindset shift into having a good time, being playful, being present, and just put some ideas up on the board and see if they work.
Nice. You brought up a really great space and somewhere that you can build your author platform is social media, of course. Sure. And so what's the perfect balance of, selling yourself and being spammy?
So I don't know. I advise, I don't know. For me, I'm 80% dog and cat pictures, and my husband makes brisket, and I live in the country, so I take a picture of a deer, and I'll take a selfie with somebody, or I'll promote somebody else's work. And then I'll do a lot of like, hey, I have a new audiobook. So I just released an audiobook recently. So I'll put that up for a few days in a row, and then I get over it. Then I'm over it. I'm kind of working on the next thing. Or when I finish a manuscript, I'll talk about it. I would probably say that that's the 80-20 rule for maybe 8 pictures of ridiculosity and 2 things about I have something you can buy if that's interesting. That's what works for me. But I am not the person that sits down, and maybe this is to my detriment and maybe I leave a lot of money on the table. I'm not the person that sits down and is like, okay, I'm going to do 8 videos and then 2 videos and then or 8 pictures and 2 pictures. I don't do that. I kind of go.
Just go with your gut.
I'm with the force, right? The force is with me.
Yeah.
It seems to be working. I know that the more I add value to other people and inspire other people, the more they like my stuff and share my stuff, right? So the number one way people find out about a book is through recommendation. So one untalked about marketing strategy / tactic, because I think it's all lumped together, is be really, really nice to your readers. Be grateful to your readers and develop relationships, because you will become someone's favorite author. So you write me an email and I write you back and you're like, no way, right? because a lot of people don't do that. They go, oh, I'm too cool for school now. I've had a best-selling book, so I can't respond to my people. Well, guess what? You see the same people on the way down you see on the way up. So just stay up. Be nice to people all the time. I answer every email as long as it's nice. It might take me a few days, but answer every email.
I'm testimony. I reached out to you for this particular reason, which, you did great.
And to put you, thank you. Okay. But not to put you on the spot, but have you ever told anyone about any of my books?
Oh, absolutely. Numerous times. Actually, even on my podcast, people know who Honoree Quarter is, for sure.
Well, and so proof of concept, and we didn't rehearse this, everyone. This is totally off the cuff, but it's proof that when you like someone, so we were talking about Steve Scott before we started recording. Steve Scott is a prolific nonfiction writer of whom I was a huge fan, and then I got to work on a book with, The Miracle Morning for Writers. I read all of his books. I still recommend his books all the time. I don't even know what all of them are, but I've read many of them, and I recommend them to people who say, do you know a book about X? And I'm like, oh, I got a guy. I got a guy. He's going to take you down the rabbit hole. So if you can, as an author, be a good person, be a kind person, then you will also then have the benefit of having a good book people recommend organically, and then you will be a good author people recommend organically as well. And that will help to build your author brand, and therein lies a great piece of your marketing strategy.
Man, I knew we would fill the time super easy.
Are we done?
We're getting towards the end. So I'm going to ask you the same question I give to all my guests. And I think you're going to probably have some good words of wisdom here. And what advice would you have for aspiring authors and self-publishers out there?
Oh, gosh. So what do I wish I knew? I think what you're really asking me is, what do I wish I knew when I first started? And that is that the sooner you can develop the writing habit that works for you, the faster you'll write the books. You'll write the words, you'll write the books, the articles, the poems, the songs, whatever it is that you're writing. As far as self-publishing goes, boy, you guys have it easy, because when I started, I was walking uphill in snow, barefoot, both ways. It was cold and miserable. It's actually kind of true. You have the opportunity to write and publish books that will work very hard for you. I consider my books my assets. They are not my children or my babies. They are my assets. You can write professionally published books that will sell for decades. Take the time that it takes to publish them professionally. So we have a guest. we have a guest. Come here. You gotta show yourself. Yeah, she brought her yogurt cup up because she wants a pup cup right now. This is what she's Okay, you have to wait a minute. This is Rogue. So I recommend the 4 cornerstones of a professionally published book. Great content that is edited, proofread, a great cover, and copywriting that beats the band, right? So that sells the book. And so when you publish professionally, and yes, kids, that's going to be an investment, and it is totally worth it, because I have books that I have spent a lot of money to publish, and they are still selling really well. And they also have been instrumental in building my brand and my platform. And so that's not sexy news. That is an exciting note. I didn't say like, yes, write and publish your book in a weekend, design your cover in Word, just run it through the editor. It'll be fine. That's fine if you want to just write and publish your book. But if you want a revenue generating asset that's going to make you a fortune over time, then publish it professionally. And then my last thing that I want to advise is to find your people. Find your writing community. Find writer buddies. You mentioned Brian Meeks earlier. We call each other author buddy. We've written 3 books together. And when you have writer friends, the thing that you do all by yourself in quiet is going to be the thing that when you get frustrated or you get stuck or you want to bounce an idea off of, or you have a new book and you want to celebrate it, your spouse, significant other, kids, whatever, they may be like, yeah, mom wrote another book, who cares? But your author buddies are really going to be supportive of you. Really, you're slowing my roll, dog. Sorry, Dale.
You're good.
She's jumping up on the desk and everything. You're really going to want to have that writer community to encourage you. They're going to tell you what the latest strategy is. They're going to promote your books for you. They're going to get you unstuck when you're stuck. And so having writer friends is something that I didn't have for about the first 6 or 7 years of my writing career. And once I realized that there were other indie authors out there, that I wasn't the lone loser who was not traditionally published, it really was transformative for me, because then I found my people and I was able to create a community. So that's really my last thing.
You've been listening to the Self-Publishing with Dale podcast. Visit us at selfpublishingwithdale.com for more information on how you can level up your self-publishing business. Also, check out our growing video-on-demand service, chock full of free and premium content, when you head over to theselfpublishinghub.com. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a review on your preferred podcasting platform. We thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next episode.